right, a good day to all. Sam here with you on Tuesday, May 8th. And as we do every day, we poll the members, let them choose which coins or which cryptocurrencies are going to be analyzed in video. And we do traditional assets Monday and Wednesday, crypto Tuesday, Thursday, and occasionally we'll do something in the crypto space on Fridays as well. Now, per the polling today, first up is Bitcoin, probably no surprise. Now I've got a 3-hour chart up here. This is Bitcoin to the dollar on Bitfinex, and this is I'm going to call it the primary count, right? This is the count that we lean towards. Although today, what's interesting about Bitcoin is there really are a couple of different ways that you can read this and interpret where we are. So I'm going to show you a couple alternatives here. But the first thing that we can look at here that in terms of trying to get a sense of where we are with Bitcoin is, can we say definitively that we have a new trend established here? Well, we certainly have a 5-wave impulsive structure here. We contain from this area down here. We come out of it in a strong 5. So that's very bullish. Now the question is, to some degree right now, whether we've completed up here. And we aren't going to know that. I mean, this is one of the challenging things about, well, you can say it's challenging about all trading, but we can't confirm anything until after the fact. We don't know with certainty what we have on our hands until after the fact, until enough trading information has passed through so that we can say, oh, well, now we know what that was. So that needs a little time. So all we're doing is looking for opportunities where we can look for a zone where we can stay consistent within Elliott rule set tendencies, the algorithmic pattern that we can identify. Where can we find low risk opportunities to get into a trend and have reasonable targets? And can we do it in such a manner that we can make a practical business decision, as in, I'm willing to risk X amount of capital because I see the upside reward of 2 to 1, 3 to 1, 4 to 1 or beyond relative to the capital that I'm putting at risk. That's all we get to. That's trading right there. There's no certainty, no absolute, no I know what this is. You don't know. If you think you do, keep your hands away from your mouse because you don't. So that's not the time to be entering the market when you have certainty, because there is no certainty in trading, just probabilities. So not to get off on a rant here, but so here, allowing for this, right? So we have some case here where it's a little, it could be this, could be that. So this, because this 2-wave here does not overlap this pivot. The primary count establishes that as a 1-2. The very clear 5-wave impulsive structure establishes that as a 3rd. Now, question becomes, do we have a completed 5-wave here? So this demands that we interpret this as a truncated C wave, that we get that triangle pattern that was so pervasive in crypto in 2017, as you've heard me talk about or demonstrate many, many times. Is that what we have here? Do we have this 4th pattern here where we get this ABC, then a shallow, truncated C wave, because we don't get the C coming down below the A wave low. It's not uncommon, not unheard of, and it implies strength in the market. So if we allow for that to be our 4th and we just pull from our 2nd, looking at that, well, it's certainly within the zone of where you'd expect a 4th. In a strong market between the 23.6 and the 38, it's ideal here. We hold the Vegas wave holds it. We get the 3-wave structure, but we don't get the algo target. That would have been ideal, and that still may be in the cards. But are we finished here at a 5? There's 2 ways to look at it. So what are the tools that we can use to help identify that? Well, we can certainly look for a fib relationship up here, knowing there are tendencies for relationships to have common relationships. One of the first that we'll look for in identifying a 5th is the length of the 1. Right? So often there is parity between the length of the 1 and the length of the 5. So if I use my alternate tool here and I take the length of my 1, I project it from what I propose here now is the 4th. You can see here that I get almost a to the tick pivot up here just beyond the 100. So we have the fifth wave just a tad beyond the 100 of the 1, suggesting that we have a contender here, certainly a strong contender for that fifth to be in, because we have that's a pattern that repeats. Well, if that is the fifth and we're done here, right, let's allow for that. Well, then what are we doing? We're looking for the second. So now I'm going to look for a retracement of the entire 5-wave structure. So I'm going to go up to that as my peak here, and I'm looking for my next count. So in the larger degree, we'd have to count it this way. Let's go to grade. So in the largest degree, that would be our 1. We'd be looking for a 2 somewhere down in here. We're going 3, 4, 5. Now, of course, let me put that in a larger degree here so it makes sense. Okay, so we'd have potentially now we have a 1 wave. Well, if it's a 1 wave, we're establishing a new trend. The assumption is that this ends the correction, right, all the way down from 20K. We end the correction down here and essentially at a double bottom, and we're starting a new trend. If that's the case, what are we looking for? We're looking for motive waves, and we get an impulsive wave, all the better, right? So to start us out as potentially a 1 wave. If it's a 1 wave, we're looking for the 2 in the high probability zone. Remember, that's all we get, probabilities. So here's our target for that second wave, right? So 50 is what we're looking for. You can see here just per what I've got from this area here. So this is visible range. So what you can see here, point of control, is just next to the 50. The idea being that's where the most trading volume took place in this range, from this swing low to this swing high, including all of this activity. Here is where we had the most trading volume, so the price is accepted here. The market accepts it. We have some low volume nodes to keep our eyes on, but right now that is a perfect setup. So we'd be looking to come down here and do something like that. So we'd get our ABC if it's going to play perfect Elliott ball. We put our wave on that. That's what we're looking for. All right, so how do we get there? We've got to construct a roadmap that will stay consistent to these tendencies, the Elliott rule set, patterns that we know are prone to repeating. So what I'll often do is, knowing that's what I'm looking for, I'm just going to move this off to the side. Well, so this, potentially now we're putting in our A wave, right? So if we think about how do we get there, well, first thing we're looking for is an A wave on the assumption that this 5-wave structure is completed. Well, now if we're going to dig into that a little more, we got to go down to some smaller time frames and see if indeed we're getting the kind of subdivision we'd anticipate here for an A wave. Well, A wave, in this context here, an A wave can be, well, it has to be a motive wave. So we'd be looking for a 5-wave structure. So it doesn't have to be an impulse, could be a diagonal. Right? It's not 1 wave and an A wave. We can allow for a diagonal, but as I look here, it would appear that we're getting an impulse. So it looks like I've got a 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going down for some sort of 5. Now let's get that so it's not crazy. Let's go somewhere. Okay, so there we go. So we have the potential now for a 1, 2 to be in. 1, 2. We've got a little kick here on this third. There's the fourth. Now let's open that up even more so, because this is where the detail becomes important. So if we look at this, it's not ideal. So we can look at it this way. So if this is a double top, so I want to look at this relationship in here. Well, you can see here that I do not have, I just barely come shy of 100%. So I'm looking at this thinking, well, could this be a 3-wave structure? Is this an ABC? It's not ideally set up here. So we can't have 1, 2, 3, right? 3 would be too short. So if we think about that, if this is 1, 2, let's go, we're going to have to go even smaller. I'm going to have to go down to the 15-minute. Excuse me. To see if we can get this to work. So potentially now I could have, on this degree, as I'm going even smaller, I could have 1, 2, 3. I get an A, B, C. Here's my 4, and I'm coming down to put in my 5. So let me put this in a larger degree. We'll change the color so that it all makes sense. I'd encourage you to do this so you don't lose track of what's what and what's attached to what. So could this work? So is that 1, 2, 3? Well, I'm going to check that 4. So granted, that's a very, very shallow 2. right? We come right to the 50. We get the second algo target. So it's a contender, right? So that could work. We can get a valid count into that. So now I've got these two. I've got these, a little iffy, but it's there. So there's a 1. I get an A, B, C into my 2. I don't love this 1, 2. I don't love it. But it plays. So I have the potential here for this to be a completed count. Straight rip down here. How do you count that? I'm trying to get subdivision within this. Again, it's not ideal. So it leaves you a little bit, unclear, uncertain, right? So you'd want to see some sort of a retracement here rather than just the straight rip down. So it's a little bit, there are counts where you're identifying where it's, you could make it work, but it's not, is it good enough to warrant putting capital at risk? That's always the bottom line. Can I make something fit? Yeah, probably I can get it to fit. Here's what I can see. What else can I be definitive about? Well, where are the algos? Well, clearly this is a big pivot. Here's an important pivot. All right, well, here we're coming right into the sweet spot, right into algo kill zone. There's the 50 and the 618, and look what they've done here, gone right to target, and then we get a reaction. All right, so what can we conclude from that? Well, I have the potential for a good pivot to be in here, which would complete this entire thing. So I've got the ingredients baked in here for this to be completed down here. Now, there could be one more kick, because if we keep this idea going that we're trying to get the good subdivision, that this could have the 4 and a 5 coming down here, so this would go here. So again, I gotta change the labeling. So let's go up a degree on that. So we'll go to submenu. Okay, so this is kind of constructing it on the fly. 1, 2, big 3. Here's my A, B, C into my 4. And see here, this is what's missing in this 5th down here. I've got no pullback for a 2. Here, I get a little kick up for my 2. 3 goes to algo target. Potentially, now we don't know, but potentially now I've got a 4 going in. So if I pull from that 2 to my 3 low, get it right in there. Well, we may have it in here. There may be another kick on that. We could get an ABC. Too soon to call it, right? Remember, I'm down here on a 15-minute where things can get squirrely. So I have a second target down here. Well, if that completes, let's put this all back into context, right? I'm trying to get to the 50%, which is way down here. Here's where I'm trying to build a roadmap to get me there. That's what I want to get to. Now, how can I construct a roadmap that gets me there working off of this pivot up here? Because if this is my top, I got to build a roadmap to get me to the 50, or or something's wrong. So if I were to pivot down here, I'm going to draw another box here, just on the assumption. So I'm hypothetical now. If I pivot here, does that give me enough in terms of the swing dynamics and the ratio that I would need? I'm going to pull this over here to get there. Well, if this is an A wave going in, so let's get this, think about it. So I've got potentially now an A wave going in. I'm going to expect a B, and then I'm looking for a big C. Right? This is what I'm trying to get to. So if I pull this all over here, this is the roadmap we're trying to construct. Well, the ingredients are in play. Now, if that's going to play as my 4, not a bad thing. Let's get that. Let's go back down to sub. Okay, so you can see all the pieces coming into play. 3, 4. I'm looking to complete the 5th of the A wave. That's what I'm after here. Do we come down here and complete? Can I get a pivot that starts a retracement? So let's clean this up a little bit, and we have to go hypothetically now. Can I come down here and start what would be the retracement for the B wave? So again, hypothetical. Looking for a B wave. We know a B, just like a 2 wave, the kill zone here is between the 50 and the 618. So can I get that laid out? And if that's my B wave here, if I come into my B wave here, what kind of relationship, what kind of extension do I need relative to the length of the A for this C wave to have a chance to making it down here to the 50? Well, again, now I'm hypothetical here. So and I don't know where that low is, and I don't know where that low is, but here's 100%. Here's 1272. Now this starts to look kind of interesting to me. So this would be, that would be a bit shallow. Again, we're projecting without knowing these pivots. But I'm just trying to see, do I have the ingredients to get me down here for this to play as a two wave and this to be done, right? You can see now that I'm down at this scale, here's where, you can kind of see Bitcoin is a little bit problematic in that I've got these I've got good 3, 4, and 5, but my 2 again is the problem wave. Some sort of diagonal here to give me a contender for an A, B, C into my 2, but it's so very shallow, so shallow. It makes you just pause, but only because that's uncharacteristic of a 2. It happens, but we're in low probabilities now. So, is there another way to read that? Well, when you look at this, when you look at the relationship from the 2 to the 4 right at the 38, and then we're just a few shy of the algo target. So potentially you've just got a front run here, potentially. Maybe something else that's affecting this up here at this level, which we'll look at in a second. So I've got the ingredients here for that 5th wave to be completed. I've got all of the ingredients for an A wave to be going in. I need that retracement into my B, and then here's the next big buying opportunity on the assumption that all of this plays back to, let me go back to a 2 hour. Does that all make sense? Is this whole thing, just this detailed analysis we just put in, all part of trying to get this, if I can move it over, all trying to get this? I see, well now I've got a different time variable here because I've now switched out to the 2 hour, but you get the idea. So this would be extended. This would be over here, and the whole thing comes together. So there's a potential roadmap that gets us there, with the idea being here's the big buy zone, because if we're going to start going up towards a third, that could be the buy of 2018 right there. Could be, we don't know, but it's certainly all of the ingredients are there for this to be setting up. So what's that 50% level? Well, on Phoenix, it's 8250. Can we get there? All right, so there's how I construct that. So this continues to be my primary count until I see something to disqualify this roadmap or make a significant change to where I have to reevaluate it. So that's the primary count. Now, something that is always a good idea is to challenge yourself and say, well, wait a minute, what if I'm wrong? What else could be going on here? In fact, this is something we're building into our private membership that we're going to do amongst our trading coaches and senseis, where we're going to have 2 senseis pick a coin. We might have the members choose it. And we're going to put together a bull case and a bear case. And I think that's a really interesting exercise, and it's a good educational tool to continually be looking at the alternate. What if I'm wrong? What else could it be? We want to stay within the rule set and the tendencies of Elliott Wave. Right? That's a big part of what we teach. So it allows us to continually challenge our intellect and say, if it's not this, what could it be? And if I'm wrong here, does that create a new opportunity via the alternate count? It's called a primary and alternate count. So let's consider that. So having been through this now, I know I'm running long here. I'm pushing on 18 minutes right now. Having constructed that I'm going to call this the bullish count, right? That the 1 is in, we're putting in the 2, we're going up for the 3. Well, I want to consider an alternate. So I'm just going to pop over here real quickly, and I want you to consider this as an alternate. So there is the possibility here, because of some of the question marks that you put next to some of the subdivision here, that we have an alternate count. There's a possibility here that we have an A, B, C going in. Well, how does that change us? Well, of course, a pretty substantial change to where the next opportunity is. If this is an A and we've had an expanded flat here, so the flat being the assumption that we would pivot down here at the 38. But if we have the expanded B wave right here, let me put that up a degree to make it make sense. If we have an expanded B wave, well, then we've got another kick setting up here to take us up towards that target. You'll recall here, this came a little shy of the algo target. We did get the 100% parity between the length of 1 and the length of the 5th. So how are you going to know? Well, you're not going to know, right? Here's where you would anticipate some reaction, if you will, if we're going to stay consistent with where we'd look for a fourth, well, this is kind of setting up nicely, and we have this area over here. If you pull it over, you can see this is, you could make the case that we're in this buffer zone here where we're coming into potentially, you could tighten it up, make them prior highs, offering some support. So prior high, so even if I tighten it up this way, right? So I've got prior highs here, high here, all kind of setting me up as a support zone, which would kick for a fourth to take this up to a fifth. Then we're reevaluating the entire move with this as our pivot. Let me see if I can take this off, right? So if that were to become our fifth, then the opportunity is from swing low to swing high, and now we're looking down here. So, well, same zone, right? But those same support pivots, those areas of support kick in, but they're kicking in as a 2 rather than as a 4. Right? Kind of an interesting alternate that needs to be somewhere where you consider it just in case. So here's another thing that I noticed that you might check. So if this is my A and this is my B wave, well, that kind of caught my attention. I've got the contender here for a median line interaction as we come down to this potentially as a fourth wave. Right, now, how would that play? Right, so now we're thinking of this from the 2 to my third. It's all potentially there. If this is 1, 2, and this is the 3, then the A wave coming right into that support zone. I got my 3 wave B. I've got an expansion in the B, and now I'm looking to come down here in 5. Well, if we break that back, if we go back down here, and I'll go to the 30-minute. Just as we're looking at this. So, is it there? Well, just as I did it before, we could go 1, 2. We have these question marks here about this 3, 4, 5 going to get down here. Possible. All right, we're going to need, so looking at that, so we can say, well, is that even realistic? Well, let's take the length of the 1. We're going to project it from the 4. Well, I get a bit of a confluence zone down here. We're going to have to get an extreme in the 5th to get there. Here's the 2, 6, 1, 8. So if we were looking at this all lining up here with a revisit to the median line, now when you change time frames, you got to tighten these pivots up. Right? You got to get them right on there. Just inherent. It's not trading views. Any charting platform is going to require that when you change the time frame. So let's get this spot on. Okay, so here becomes that target. So same area of support, same contender. 1, 2. I mean, there's the additional possibility that we have that this is 1, 2, and that 3 is still going in. 4 is waiting to be identified. This all goes a little bit lower. All right, so if we think here, well, look what we've just done. So this is kind of interesting. All right, so 1, 2, that's my 1, 6, 1, 8. That's back to this as the 1, and this is the 2. Right, so the length of 1 projected from this pivot. We've just hit the 1, 6, 1, 8. So there, you got a couple of different scenarios here that can be at play. We have to wait and see. So we aren't going to know until we see the depth of the retracement here for this 4, because we don't want more. If this is going to play as whether this is the 3, 4, 5, we want to see this. Let me pull this off here so we've got that somewhat established. So we want to see a relationship between the 2 and the 4. So if you allow for the third to be in down here, we're looking for this. Looking for the 4th right here. That would set us up for one more drive down here for the 5th. So it's not the prettiest I've ever seen, because we have this. It really looks like an ABC. It looks more like we've got a diagonal going in with that is your third, right? So note here that we get the 38, and then we're coming in potentially now. That's an algo front run. This is why this is not the primary count, because this is still a bit confusing, and it looks more like we're going to bottom here and start up again. So then we'd have to have the C wave here. It's possible, right? So, but again, we're kind of in this could be this, could be that. We need more information. So I don't have a buy it right now trade that I can give you sitting here as we allow this to unfold. We need to see what happens next. Do we get a reaction here at this algo target at the 23, and how deep is it? So if this were to play as the C, so if this is coming down, if this alternate count is going to play and we come down and we put this in here, I mean, it's still, again, we'd have yet again the truncated C wave relative to the A wave. So, there is no clear answer with Bitcoin, at least not here. We've got to see what happens here. Can we come up? Of course, we'd want to look at an algo pivot there. So looking from the pivot high to where, if that's our low, can we get through this, right? We have this structural resistance. Can we get through the 50, get through the 618? If this is the C wave, we're looking for this to start a one wave of the fifth wave, right? So if we pull back out and think about, well, where are we going? Again, where's the roadmap? If we're going up here to this fifth, somewhere up in that range, well, then we've got to start there with a 1 and a 2. So again, we're not going to know until we see if this starts to retrace, is there a 2 wave before we head up again going for a third, right? Do we have this kind of pattern happening, or is it a shallow retracement and then we're heading back down again looking for that? No way to know until we get more information. How deep does this retracement go? Does it look more like a B wave or a 2? Are we putting in a 1 wave of a 2 wave before we go much deeper? Because nothing says we have to stop here. We could go here, right? This fourth wave, we could certainly make the 50. That's not out of bounds. Let me take this off just so it doesn't clutter up the chart. If we get this other kick down, now we have a more traditional, here's the A, the B, the C would be going down here, right? That's certainly a contender. Now we have a more traditional A, B, C, although we do have the expansion, the flat, then we'd measure that. So again, you keep looking for confluence. If that's my A, that's my B, well, what comes up down here? Well, here I've got the 1618 sitting in right here. Here's my 100, interestingly, right? Just to keep it confusing. Here's the 100% right at the first algo target. So where is the next pivot? If it's that, could that be the C? Yeah, it could. Right? Could be the C, and we're going to get this. Here's A, B. We're going to put in the C. We're going to get another truncated C wave, meaning we'd have this kind of action here for our fourth before heading up to go for the fifth. So, I like to give you clear answers, but right now this is unclear, because either one of these could be in play. And until we get more market information, there is just no way to call that with any conviction. It doesn't mean you couldn't trade it. I just would certainly be disciplined about your stop placement. And I would not be moving stops. I establish a zone here where you're willing to put capital at risk. I'd look for a minimum of 3 to 1. If this is our target here, and we're going to be buyers here at this algo target, we've got the upper algo target. What kind of risk are you? Well, there's 7 to 1 right there. Allowing it for it to go beyond this, beyond the 100%, beyond the 38. You can't give it too much more. If you go under the 38, now you're at 3.6 to 1. Still acceptable. Still, 3 to 1's a minimum for me. So, you might look at that and say, well, I'll put on a half of the position I might have considered at that time. Stop's got to be under the 38. So I put on half of my position that I might consider, and then I put on a second half if we're coming down to the 50. If you give under the 65, which now the whole count it would have to be potentially relabeled. If you're going under the 65, well, there's 4 to 1. Assuming you want to give it that much room. 8 to 1, cut it in half. So you got a couple of different options here, but we need more information. We need to see what happens here. Right? That's I wish I could give you a clear buy it here, sell it here. It's just not there yet. All right, so rather than mislead you or give you any sort of a false premise here, I would just tell you that I can't be sure about it. No one's sure, but we can build these cases, and then we wait and see what happens. What's the most likely to be playing out? Where's the next opportunity, and where's the stop, and where's the target? That's all you get, guys. All right, I ran long here, so I'll wrap it up.